to Perpetually Exasperated, the podcast where we've chosen to read new, best-selling books from both sides of the political spectrum so you don't have to, and tell you how at times they've got the right idea, but mostly how they're missing the point of why everything kind of sucks. I'm Joseph.
And I'm the rapidly forming worry lines on Joseph's forehead. In this next episode, we're going to be reviewing The Case Against the Supreme Court by Erwin Chemerinsky, a book that, per Viking Books, details case by case how the Supreme Court has largely failed throughout American history at its most important tasks and at the most important times.
Oh, thank God it's another palate cleanser. So, let's see how this keeps us perpetually exasperated, and why you should be as well.
So, we're cooked, right?
Yep. Thanks for joining us for this episode of...
Okay, hold on.
What? We're
That's
done.
not all there is to it.
You just said we're cooked.
I know. And we are. But there's more to say. And, like, for me, this was an exceptionally bleak read. I didn't think it was possible, but I believe this has somehow radicalized me even more than previously.
I didn't think that was possible either, but, yeah, this is one of those moments where I'm left feeling this aura of hopeless dread, trademark. A final peeling back of the metaphorical curtain, revealing that the institutions we hold dear have kinda, sorta, most of the time actually been like this. Beholden to the powerful, not the people. Oh, and by the way, do you know what's especially galling?
What?
According to Libby, and confirmed by Amazon, this book was published on September 24th or 25th, depending on your source, of 2014.
Yeah.
Now, at the time when we proposed this book for our palate cleanser, I thought, hold on, this isn't a new book. Sure, it was a bestseller, but as we have painstakingly demonstrated, that title doesn't mean all that much. But fortunately, we decided, screw it. This seems like the best book following Gorsuch and Littman, and that was the correct choice. But there's something else I need to point out. That publication date, that's not just old. That was almost exactly 11 years ago, as of the time of recording on September 22nd in the year of our Lord 2025. So let that simmer in your mind for just a moment, and let me paint a picture for you while it simmers. This was before the election of Donald J. Trump, the first election.
Damn.
This was before the midterms.
Damn, that's true.
When the Republicans won back control of both chambers of Congress.
Right, yeah.
This was before Associate Justice Antonin Scalia passed away on February 13th, 2016.
Yep, before the subversion of the last appointment of Justice Merrick Garland. Thank you. Before Bader Ginsburg death, that's crazy.
Yeah, and the court at the time was, broadly speaking, 4 liberals, 4 conservatives, and 1 swing vote. All of this to emphasize that at the time this book was published, things were still, technically, by the standards of today, if nothing else, sane in all 3 branches of government.
This saw it coming.
This was Obama.
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
He saw it coming.
Now, I wonder if I had, for whatever reason, decided to read this book back when it came out and how I would have reacted. So back then, I was a good old straight white male coastal Californian liberal elite. And I probably would have thought, okay, wow, yeah, that's bad. But hey, you know what? If you think about it, I think if things go well in November, we could make another exception, like the Warren Court, and maybe we'll be able to put things back on the right track. Present day Joseph. LOL. LMAO, Eben. Fast forward 11 years, and my only responses were fucked. I do feel more radicalized than I was a few weeks ago, and I'm left thinking, what the hell do we do now?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only real question left, right? What do we do?
I don't know, man. Fuck.
I think it's reasonable to say that at the time of writing the Constitution was a revolutionary system for expanding the total intelligence of a government, but now we're chained to lawyers and layers of procedure and obfuscation meant to corrode our fundamental rights over time. I used to see the court as the final backstop, as the last bastion of bureaucracy against an increasingly dysfunctional and partisan system. But it just isn't.
Nope.
It just isn't. It just isn't.
Nope.
And the worst of our impressions from the last two books are confirmed by this one. Federal courts, and the Supreme Court specifically, have always functioned to nullify the law when sufficiently convenient for the powerful.
Yep. I saw the court as the last stand of resistance too. Fuck, I saw it as the last stand in January of this year.
Didn't we all?
It was meant. It was a great idea at the time. It was meant to curb the excesses of both the legislature and the executive if either or both went too far. At the very least, it was meant to protect us from the excesses of the powerful. But time and time and time and time and time again, Erwin Chemerinsky detailed how the court has more often than not proven itself to not be our friend. Now, we already know about Dred Scott v. Sanford in 1857, one of the most infamous and universally condemned decisions of all time, declaring the Missouri Compromise is unconstitutional and slaves were not citizens but property and therefore couldn't sue under the law, as explained in Chapter 1, Protecting Minorities. But think about Minor versus Happersett in 1875, where, quote, Minor argued that the denial of the right to vote to women violated equal protection and infringed on the privileges or immunities of citizenships guaranteed by the 14th Amendment, unquote. The court just said, whoa, no, fuck off. And it took us adopting the 19th Amendment in 1920 for women to be granted the right to vote. Think about Plessy v. Ferguson in 1896, where the Supreme Court, voting 7-1, upheld the notion that separate but equal laws were constitutional. And in response to the claim by the plaintiff, Homer Adolph Plessy, that laws requiring segregation were based on the assumption of the inferiority of blacks, and thus gave them second-class status, the Supreme Court replied, quote, we consider the underlying fallacy of the plaintiff's argument to consist in the assumption that the enforced separation of the two races stamps the colored race with a badge of inferiority. If this be so, it is not by reason or anything found in the act, but solely because the colored race chooses to put that construction upon it, unquote. That is some 19th century gaslighting.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Some heavy victim blaming going on there.
It is just, it's one thing to know about the decisions. Like we did. We knew that Plessy v. Ferguson was fucked up. But Chemerinsky includes the reasoning behind these decisions, and it just further illustrates how incredibly fucked up it all is. And by the way, that's just chapter 1. That was dealing with women and with African Americans. There is example after example after example of cases, both high and low profile, infamous and unknown by the general public, that just shows how the court, save for the Warren Court, cares more about the elite than they do about us.
Yeah, speaking of, that's actually one of the things I liked most about this book, was that it gave a thoughtful critique even of the Warren Court.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's easy to use the Warren Court as a foundational institution of the times that we enjoyed in the last half of the 20th century, but even that court had plenty of moments of capitulation to the powerful that have landed us where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wonder how prevalent bribery has been historically? Clearly, it's a major feature of the court today. We have multiple justices openly ignoring any sense of ethical procedure.
Thomas, Alito.
Maybe some others.
Sorry.
But has that always been the case? Like, we've never had an impeachment, at least a successful one.
Yes, we've voted for impeachment a couple of times. It's never been, confirmed and removed. But that's a minor point. Doesn't matter.
Like, have they just been respecting the rules because it makes them feel good until now? Or was there maybe a little bit of a finger on the scale, even of cases like Dred Scott? Now, granted, when I say that, I realize that I think at least some of the Supreme Court justices, when that was decided, had slaves. So
yes, they did. You have to remember that the Supreme Court, since day one, has been composed of elites.
Yes.
Think about all of the justices that we have in the court right now.
That's true.
They are all from Ivy League schools.
Yep.
Not a single one of them is from a state university.
Yeah, not even. I think it's like 6 Harvard, 1 Yale or something.
1 or 2 Yale, give or take.
Real consolidated.
Yeah, so this is an institutional arrogance that has been plaguing the court since day one. And honestly, you could argue that institutional arrogance can be expanded to a majority of the United States government. This is an elitist system. This is a system that is anti-majoritarian, baked into the Constitution. It's an elitist system where the executive is chosen not technically through the popular vote, as we have found out, but it's through the Electoral College. And how up until recently, primaries tended to be heavily dictated by the political parties of the time to ensure their favored candidate was put forward as the nominee rather than some populist piece of shit like Donald J. Trump. Do you remember Tammany Hall? The political machine of the Democratic Party? That was the norm back in the day. Think about also how judges are appointed for life. Presumably, allegedly, to ensure they rise above politics and are not beholden to voters, but rather to the law. Yet, you can never truly stamp out ideology from anyone when they're considering the law. And that's one of my biggest takeaways from this book. And really, this series on the Supreme Court that we've undertaken over this past, month and a half of reading and recording.
Yep.
Oh, God. It's extremely difficult, near impossible, perhaps, to read the law in a purely unbiased way.
True.
Bias is inevitable, and that bias will color your interpretation of the law in ways which will make perfect sense to those who support your interpretation. We supported the interpretation of Roe v. Wade, for instance. We supported Board v. Brown, for instance. But it doesn't make any sense. It's, in fact, utter madness and alternate reality for those who do not. Think about how the Supreme Court interpreted presidential immunity.
True. Very true.
The Republicans think this is a great idea. Of course, naturally, it's their fucking guy. But we, on the other hand, are going, what the fuck are you doing? That's a king over there, my man. Not the point. Doesn't matter. It's just, I feel like I keep just digressing from the original question, but I do think that for a majority of American political and judicial history, only the elite have been allowed to become part of the bigger machine. Only the powerful have been allowed access to power, save for a few hiccups, and this is an ongoing struggle that, right now, I think it's fair to say we're losing a significant amount of ground on.
Yep.
And what allows me to take Chemerinsky so seriously is, yes, he is critical of the shortcomings of the Warren Court in Chapter 4. What about the Warren Court? Even in their landmark rulings like Board v. Brown of Education in 1954, where even though the court did so much to end segregation, it made a critical error in this regard. Quote, "The court gave no deadlines or timetables. It prescribed no techniques or approaches to desegregating schools to comply with the Constitution," unquote. Instead, all it did was instruct lower courts in Brown 2 a year later to, quote, "achieve desegregation with all deliberate speed," unquote.
Oof.
What a fucking letdown, huh?
Oof.
Or take providing adequate counsel in criminal cases assured by Gideon v. Wainwright, where Chemerinsky correctly points out that, quote, first, the Supreme Court imposed an unfunded mandate on state and local governments, with only the realistic enforcement mechanism being the finding of ineffective assistance of counsel in individual cases. Second, the court created a test for ineffective assistance of counsel that makes it very difficult for a convicted individual to get relief, even when counsel's performance is quite deficient, unquote. It meant well, the Warren Court, charitably, but it didn't go far enough. And perhaps it thought it didn't need to go as far as it should have, that other institutions would pick up the slack. But it is, to me, indicative of a larger problem of the system itself being so, I guess, insulated or removed from true consequences of abuse of authority and power. Hell, you can read through Chapter 6, Abuses of Government Power, thanks for the titles, Chemerinsky, that spell out in exhaustive detail how both absolute and qualified immunity erect unreasonably challenging hurdles for individual citizens to hold government officials, be they executive, legislative, or judicial, accountable for their negligence, be it unintended or malicious. Oh my God. Consider, for instance, I'm not done, how suing the federal government or suing states is an unbelievably challenging process, that because the court has so narrowly interpreted aspects of the law that make it impossible for people to have their fair day in court, make it almost not worth our while. Perhaps that knowledge beyond the bribery you speak of, though that does exist, allows for those in power to feel so comfortable and confident in doing illegal shit. Because I have a very simple question. Who the fuck is gonna stop them?
That's Donald Trump's question.
Yeah, that brings us to today. Even if all this shit that the Trump administration is doing is found to be illegal, please God, let it be found illegal. Who the fuck is gonna stop them? The Democrats? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, at first I was having trouble seeing the Democrats in the same light as the Republicans on this, just given the tidal wave of anti-democratic action around the courts in the 21st century, but the Democratic sin is almost as pernicious. They lead us to believe that the courts were a protection. They show not discontent, but apathy towards electoral politics, with the hollow promise that the high-minded courts will protect us against serious constitutional violations, knowing full well that it would be a miracle for them to defend us over their benefactors.
And that's what makes it a much, much more dangerous side of the same coin that is the monoparty. Heads is active malice, the Republicans. Tails is passive malice, the Democrats. Either way, we lose. Thanks for playing, everybody. The Democratic Party, save for a handful of individuals, God bless them, are beholden more so to their donors than to their voters. They have become, charitably, a big tent party, not a leftist party that seeks to uphold the status quo, to come back to the time before Trump, to fix symptoms of problems rather than to propose big solutions. They don't address the underlying problems, the core inequalities that plague us as a country. They don't seek radical change. They instead seek to go back to the way things were. And it's a simultaneously attractive yet disheartening message. Because let's face it, the Trump era has been a nightmare. Every metric, any reasonable standard, it's a fucking nightmare. It's awful. It's a disaster. Wake me the fuck up from this. But there's a reason that Joe Biden won in 2020. And it's not because he proposed big solutions to big problems. He was not Donald. That's it. And they pulled it off in 2020. They failed, however, to pull it off in 2024, just like we detailed in Original Sin. Please hit like and subscribe. And I am deathly afraid they're going to try it again in 2026 and, God forbid, 2028. They want us to make America normal again. Mana, for short. Oh, God.
That's horrid.
It's right up there with being abundance pilled. Fuck.
It's almost worse, and that's saying something.
Oh, my God. We can't settle for normal, though. Normal, as this book by Chemerinsky exhaustively explains, is beneficial to those in power, not us, not minorities, not workers, not anybody who isn't the elite. Instances where that was the case are exceptions to the rule, not the rule itself. And like we have said before in prior episodes, Donald Trump ran on being not normal. And he won in part because of that, also because of racism and whatnot, but we already touched on that. We as a society cannot be normal anymore. That era is gone. And yet, the Republican Party can probably be seen as a sort of accelerationist movement that funnels more and more money and power into the hands of the elite.
Definitely.
And that's the true dark brilliance of the Mono Party. You either vote for fast erosion of power and protection of the people, or slow erosion of the same. There's no third option given to us. That's up to us to figure out. God help us.
You know, on that note of erosion, I've always imagined the monoparty as like an artifact of the slow erosion of democratic norms by capital and its acolytes. But maybe it's deeper than that. Maybe it's more like a vestige of the impenetrable class structures of Europe. The unspoken camaraderie amongst those who see themselves as elite that drives them to consider that their greatest ideological opponents are still friends as long as they're exploiting their subjects to the same degree. It's that glue that has bound the aristocracy together across time, reborn for the era of capital.
Now you're starting to speak the right language and think the right way. There's a video on YouTube by the creator Thought Slime titled Hard Work is a Grift that, in part, explores this concept of how history can be seen as class struggle that stretches back to ancient times, mostly in the guise of what exactly is work and why we lionize hard work over a comfortable life, especially nowadays. Now, that video goes into further detail, but the bottom line is that throughout history, there's been exploitation of the masses for their labor with very, very, very rare exceptions on the grand scale of time. And that the people in charge, be they kings, aristocrats, capitalist tycoons, industrial elites, or tech bros, always somehow finds a way to use their wealth and power to maintain said access to wealth and power and use others to do their bidding. Now, this can range from the church enforcing hierarchy to bribery with some of their wealth to extol the virtues of hard work, that hashtag grind mentality, to thin veneers of class mobility to make it seem as though there's an actual reward at the end of the tunnel of hard work beyond, more hard work. Now, there was this guy, his name was Carl, who laid it out in a rather exhaustive detail in a book somewhere. Maybe you should go check it out sometime. But the bottom line is that today's tech bros and corporate CEOs are simply the latest iteration of what can best be described as the leisure class. These are the guys, and a vanishingly few number of gals, but they're mostly guys and they're mostly white, who don't have to work for a living. They profit off of the working class, who do, in fact, have to work for a living or starve. They use their power to keep their power and money for as long as possible and maintain the status quo when it benefits them, or accelerates the decay of protections and power the rest of us have when the time is right. It's a vicious cycle that we keep trying to wake up from and escape from, but the amount of intricate details that keeps us trapped with all of these laws, with all of these politicians, with all of these judges, with all of these economic elites that keep us trapped is, frankly, it's a bit exasperating.
Yeah, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but given the time scale you've described, how this has been a problem that has spanned literally thousands of years with no meaningful end in sight, could you possibly select like an adjective to describe that exasperation? Like maybe it's something that like a layman could describe as like perpetually exasperating? Okay.
So that was depressing.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of expected us to do what we usually do with our palate cleansers, where we just quote ad nauseum through the whole fucking book and just go off of that, but we didn't really need to. We just brought up some stuff briefly, and we're just like, shit's fucked.
Yeah, I think the other palate cleansers were, I don't want to say more hopeful, but maybe more ambivalent, like a little good, a little bad, a little hope, a little depression. But this was just like, well, so you know that thing that since you were a kid, they've been telling you that if shit gets really fucked, that'll still be okay. Turns out they're actually also the enemy and potentially the original one. Like, what the fuck do you do with that?
I don't know, but you know what's also amazing is that in his conclusion, he wasn't doom and gloom in his conclusion.
No, he wasn't.
But to be fair to him, we can't ragdoll him on this one because it was 2014.
Yes, yeah, and it actually, so Erwin has another book that he wrote after this one was released in, I think, 2024. So it's more contemporary.
We could actually review that book if we really wanted to.
Well, I actually read that book.
Oh.
I read that book, and I think the change in Erwin's outlook between 2014 and 2024 can be best summarized by the fact that the name of that book is The End of Democracy.
Fuck.
I think. It's either that or it's like some democracy, not all democracies last forever. Like the whole book is basically like, well, we had a good run.
Oh, God.
And the Romans also died. Like,
oh, good. We're the Romans.
It's not exactly that, but I mean, he makes a lot of the very solid points. Like, regardless of how China presents itself as this like 4,000-year-old dynasty, that the reality is that they haven't really managed to have a single governing framework for more than 250 years. Like, yes, there are governments that last longer than that, but it is very common for significant overhauls to happen every quarter millennium or so.
Yeah.
And we're right up against that line.
Oh,
so,
good.
Yeah, so even Erwin's like, we could fix it, but secession could also happen.
Like, we're already starting to see this, like, with the fucking gerrymandering thing that's going on right now. We're creating two parallel systems of uniparty rule.
Yes, well, that's something that he brings up in the 2024 book, is how much more anti-democratic politics have become, especially legislative politics, since he wrote the last book.
And let's not kid around here. When we're talking about like revolutionary change, we're kind of imposing revolutionary change in a lot of ways, where there might be some folk who will disagree and we go, okay, that's nice, don't care.
Yes.
So we have to be kind of honest with ourselves when we are demanding a sort of change that, yes, is popularly demanded in some way, shape, or form, but then when you get to the reality of it, a lot of these like historical revolutionary movements tend to be spearheaded by a vanguard of sorts, a vanguard of elitists, let's not kid around here, who are directing the masses into doing things that the masses don't necessarily know about or agree with, but have been spurred on because they got angry enough at the status quo as is.
Yes.
So going back to my main point, this whole thing with fearless leader Gavin Newsom.
Oh, Gavin.
We love Gavin here.
Yes, Gavin's the best.
He's the greatest. Gavin Newsom 2020.
Yeah. Gavin Newsom 2020.
Oh, God. Okay. But his whole thing with the gerrymandering thing, and he's making it, and it's truly brilliant, he's making it a popular mandate. He's putting it to a vote rather than imposing it like the legislature is doing in Texas.
Well, and he's legally required to do so by California law.
Yeah, but nonetheless, he's still doing it, and he's making us decide whether or not to do it.
Yes.
And there's a fair amount of us that are inclined to do it because we're doing you know what? Fuck you. We're going to fight fire with fire, and we're going to do anti-democratic shit to go against your anti-democratic shit. And I understand. I get it. I understand that what exactly is the alternative here. There are some alternatives here, but we're not legally allowed to say them.
Yeah, we'll leave those alternatives for a secret episode.
We don't have enough lawyers or bodyguards for that. Hi, Alphabet Boys. How you doing today? But principally, we are both against gerrymandering. Principally, a lot of folk are against gerrymandering. One would hope. We don't really have a lot of other alternatives here. But let's not kid around here. What we're basically doing is turning California, which already has a Democratic supermajority, into what basically amounts to a one-party state, which is what Texas is doing, which is what Florida is doing, Ohio, Indiana. We're getting to a point where we're going to have uniparty rule to the two facets of the monoparty in various states, thus furthering the divide between these two groups of states. We are digging our own grave. We're being encouraged by the monoparty to dig our own grave. And that's what leaves me as a Californian in this amazing quandary where I don't want to vote no on Prop 50 because the people who are telling me to vote no are the fascists.
Yes. The Ted Cruzes of the world.
But I also don't want to vote yes for Prop 50 because I know where this is going and because Fearless Leader proposed it. And I don't like Fearless Leader either.
Yeah, Gavin's very much a make America normal again kind of candidate.
Mana.
I refuse to say it that way.
But it's
I can't yet.
It's
I can't.
It's MAGA versus mana.
Yeah, that's true. Two groups of feckless extremists fighting over the corpse of the American system.
And they're using us as foot soldiers in this fight.
Yeah, more like ammunition, but yeah.
Two sides, potato.
Yeah, that's true.
Cannon fodder. And
I think I will say for Prop 50, even I am more anti-partisan than I used to be, but I still have a little bit of a Democratic chip on my shoulder.
I get that.
Which is just the fucking toothlessness, because even in this circumstance where Texas is doing what they're doing, California's action is not actually a counterweight. It is a counterweight exclusively in the arena of federal politics, because the Texas change is everywhere. The Texas change is for their state maps and for their federal maps. The California change is just for federal maps and only in the case where Texas makes that change.
Right.
That's more toothless, democratic, equivocating nonsense. They are playing the other side of, no, we're the fair ones. We're going to give everybody a fair shake, except we're going to actually enable all of the benefiting to the elites that the Republicans are doing and not actually defraying any of that. It's more of that monoparty shit.
Yes, that's exactly right. And it's so tempting. It's so tempting. Weren't we just a few weeks ago thinking like, you know what, Gavin? Good job. You're finally fucking doing something. You're finally showing some teeth.
Yeah, be useful in some way.
You're being useful for once, you fucking feckless piece of shit. with your slick back fucking hair and your coastal elite bullshit.
You know what, Gavin? I don't care what you look like. Just stop being photographed trying to destroy homeless people's homes.
And
just stop. It's
and,
weird.
And stop eulogizing and doing all this prose over a certain individual that had a certain thing happen to him recently. We'll get into that in a little bit. We're just going to finish this train of thought here. But the point is that, like, a few weeks ago, we were on board with this because we still have that teeny tiny little Democrat in us going, it's okay, guys. This is going to work. Trust me. This is fine. And yes, you could argue that this is purely because of the upcoming midterms, because there have been some statistics that were put out recently that the Democrats really allegedly don't have to do all that much to recapture the House in 2026 because the polling numbers for the Republicans are... How low can you possibly go? Let's find out.
No, the Democratic Party is polling pretty terribly at the moment, too.
That is also true. And
if they continue to just, like, do feckless shit for another year and a half, it's very possible that it'll just be shitty choice or shitty choice. That's what they're looking at now.
But it's been shitty choice versus shitty choice, at least in our perception,
yes,
since fucking 2014,
yes, especially at the presidential level, it's
especially
been a shit show.
It's a shit show.
I mean, I feel like at the very least, the Democratic Party has been able to field a handful of decent House candidates. AOC, Ilhan Omar, even, like, I don't love Corey, but he's a decent leader. Hakeem.
Oh boy,
Hakeem trying he's trying his best.
No, he's not. Fuck
Chuck,
him.
I could throw into a bonfire, but Chuck Schumer is a Republican, so like he says he's a Democrat, but I've watched him talk about his politics. Chuck Schumer's a Republican.
And recently, I've heard that AOC is musing whether or not to go for Senate or
oh my
for
God, if
president.
she runs for his seat, I am going to New York to work on her campaign. That would not even because, like, I like AOC. She's
doing her best. God bless her.
Well, and she does really solid. Like, she's a very good House candidate. I'm suspicious that her particular brand of politics will translate well to the Senate arena, but I would rather have a golden retriever than Chuck Schumer.
Oh God,
So,
I'd rather have an ugly ass pug than fucking Chuck Schumer.
He's a good boy.
He's a good boy.
He tries to breathe, and he doesn't do so good. It's not his fault.
It's really not.
Whereas
it's the
Chuck
breeder's fault.
is a dipshit, and he could help that.
But he chooses not to.
Precisely.
Because of his donors.
Yeah, and because I think personally, politically, he is the side of the Democratic Party that didn't vote in 2024 because, quote, they're just the same side.
Yeah.
Like, and you know what? I don't like the Democrats. I don't. But I personally don't think that Kamala would be destroying democratic norms.
She wouldn't be, but then we have to go back to what we were just saying earlier where we were having the active versus passive.
Precisely. Then we'd just be sitting here trying desperately to be like, have you considered, Kamala, that maybe homeless people are in fact people? Because, like, I don't know about Kamala, but for example, let's say that Donald Trump blows up in an airplane along with his entire administration and we need to replace them.
Which would be a tragedy, by the way.
We'd be really sad about that. It would be a huge bummer. Wah, 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 wah. But let's say Gavin just becomes president afterwards. Do we really believe that he would completely get rid of the homeless crackdown in D.C.?
Oh, fuck no. He would
expand that shit.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's very hard at this moment not to feel like, yeah, I'm not a big mana person, but also I would like to go back to a system where we can all agree that an election is a good idea.
Right. but that goes back into the vicious cycle.
You're right. And that's what I hate about this president specifically.
It's so brilliant.
It's so well structured to get me to be comfortable with that shit that we were dealing with before.
Yeah.
Because now the other option is, oh, big Nazi.
Big Nazi versus
feckless
Nazi. Idiot.
Yeah, just you know, it's not that I don't like black people. It's just that I think that if they're suffering, it's their fault. Yeah.
That's what we have to keep reminding ourselves every single time we see the Democratic Party actually do something.
Yeah, that their goal to do something is to bring us back to the status quo that ended us here in the first place.
Yeah, because again, throughout the book, the status quo has been shown time and time and time and time and time and time again to benefit the elite, not us.
Yes, just slowly enough that we become the boiling frog.
Yes.
That we're like, oh, you take money? Oh, well.
Oh, well,
You don't take that much money.
Everybody take money.
Exactly. Everybody thief, so you're not that bad.
Theft is normal.
Yes, and that is what makes it a kleptocracy.
Corruption is normal.
Oh, my God. The Tom Homan shit.
Yes.
Like,
oh, my God.
On one hand, are we surprised at an administration who is like, yes, Mr. President, you in fact can have a $400 million jet from the Qataris?
Of course we're not surprised.
Damn, bro took a old school suitcase full of bills.
And wasn't a Democratic senator from New Jersey indicted a couple of years ago doing exactly the same fucking
For
thing?
sure. Yeah, I don't remember what
I don't remember his name, but it doesn't matter. He's in jail. Fuck him.
And I distinctly remember being like, LMAO, buddy, get fucked.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. It should not be any party when this comes up. As soon as a person's party is whoever can pay me the most, we should all hate them.
Yeah.
And that's crazy that we're not in a place like that anymore.
We're not. We're in a place where the first thing that matters when a corruption case comes up is not what's the letter, is there corruption or not, yes or no. The first question that comes up is it a D or an R?
Yeah,
next to their
is
name?
it our guy or the other guy's guy?
Yeah, and that's the case with the gerrymandering, and that's the case, and this is a nice segue into Charlie Kirk.
Oh, Charlie. Yeah, because Charlie Kirk's dead, and yes, he's definitely the most high-profile assassination of this political cycle.
But what happened simultaneously with him acquiring another hole in his head or around his head is that there were a couple of high schoolers that were also shot by an extremist in Colorado, and there was fuck all talked about with that.
Yep.
And not too long ago, maybe not even last year, earlier this year, there were two
Melissa Horseman.
Yeah.
The whatever, where is Tim Walz from? Minnesota.
Minnesota, yes.
The Minnesota, or the two young people, the Israeli Kozlan, who were murdered. Like, there's been so much political assassination this year.
And yet, for some reason, we lowered the flag for a weekend for Charlie Kirk.
Oh, we know why.
It's
politically expedient.
We know why, but we still have to ask the question, why him?
Yeah.
Because let's use their language for a hot minute here. Do you remember the phrase, all lives matter?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Of course we remember that. And, of course, all lives matter. Why does his life matter more?
I mean, again, we know the answer to this question.
We know the answer, but we still have to ask the question. Because, look, I don't want to be a radical. I really don't. I would much rather be apolitical. I don't want to give a shit about politics. What I want deep down in my straight white male bones is just live a comfortable life. That's literally all I want to fucking do. But why is it that we're not going to lower the flag for state representatives who are explicitly assassinated, but we are going to lower the flag for a high-profile guy who, yes, was assassinated? Why him? And why are we going to lower the flag for a guy who was very publicly killed, but we're not going to lower the flag for children who are also being assassinated in mass shootings? Why does his life matter more than that of a child? Why does his life matter more than that of a lawmaker? I don't even give a fuck that the lawmakers were Democrats. They were lawmakers. They actually made laws. Don't they, on a meritocracy basis, matter more than Charlie Kirk because they actually did shit that impacted people's lives in their particular state? But if all lives matter and they're one and the same, and they were white too, by the way, so this isn't even a race card thing. I know that was thinking in the back of our heads here for a moment, and we had to remind ourselves, no, those Democratic lawmakers were white as well.
Yeah, but so were the kids who were killed in the same day as Charlie Kirk, I think.
Also true. Yeah. Also true. So it's not even a white lives matter more than black lives thing in this particular case. All lives do matter. Why does his life matter more?
Well, I mean, to pick up on the all lives matter thing, because all lives matter is not about all lives mattering. That is not actually what that means. What that means is that our people's lives matter more, and you need to acknowledge that.
It's a hierarchy.
Correct. All lives matter is meant to reassert a hierarchy that the phrase Black Lives Matter is meant to challenge. Now, I would be willing to say that the reason that it's Charlie Kirk more than anything else is because we know that they have been planning this authoritarian crackdown on liberal organizing and media since before this, and they were kind of just waiting for something they could point out and be like, look, the liberals have liberaled, and now we must kill them.
Yeah, like we saw the beginnings of it. It was before, but the biggest, highest profile one prior to Charlie Kirk was Stephen Colbert.
Yes, and I think...
And now it's Jimmy Kimmel. And Jimmy Kimmel...
Oh, Kimmel's maybe back?
To be fair, he is back after a pretty significant backlash to the suspension of him. And then not just the suspension of him, the President of the United States and the FCC chairman weighing in and saying that The View was next. And by the way... Just for further context, back when Colbert's show was not going to be renewed, the president tweeted out on Truth Social that Jimmy Kimmel was next.
Yep. Which we know inspired Brendan Carr to say the things he did, which in turn pushed Nexstar to cut Kimmel because of the merger that they're considering. Yeah.
Yeah, but nonetheless, like, he's back, and yet, nonetheless, it still happened.
Yeah, and I mean, it's we still have to wonder whether or not The View is next. They might still gun for The View, despite the fact that they seem to have failed to get Kimmel.
Interesting choice of words there with gun.
Oh, yeah, Jesus. I didn't do that on purpose.
I know you did it. I know you didn't.
Oh, no.
But that's part of this whole MAGA versus MANA thing. And normal. It's normal to say gun for.
Yeah, that's true.
It's normal to regard a mass shooting as a weather event.
Yeah, Jesus. That's true.
It's normal now for the President of the United States to weigh in on the suppression of media.
Yep.
It is normal for a border czar to do an old school corruption with literal suitcases full of money. This is normal. This is what we're going back to?
Yeah, when in American history
plenty of times.
When in American history were we proud that there were American officials openly taking cash bribes?
Tammany Hall.
Fair enough.
That was the early 1900s.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, reading through the case against the Supreme Court kind of emphasized for me that fixing one part of America, be it the presidency, be it Congress, be it the judicial system or the Supreme Court, that isn't enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just do one thing. Like, this is something where you have to change a mindset of how we even begin to approach politics as a whole, how we approach economics as a whole, how we approach society as a whole. And this entire time that we're reading through this book, and it's a germ of a thought that's been growing in me since Donald Trump was re-fucking elected. Is it too late?
You sound exactly like Erwin. That's like basically the last half of his most recent book is like,
which I haven't read.
Well, maybe we could have country, but I'm just gonna put it out there that maybe we already don't have one.
Because like recently in the Wednesday episode of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, John decided it was Monday.
Right, yeah, because of the Charlie Kirk shooting.
And mostly also with the announcement of the Jimmy Kimmel suspension.
Yes.
He came on, and it was a beautiful first half, by the way. Just the groveling was amazing.
Oh, yes, I saw the one where he's pretending to be like state TV.
Yeah, state TV. And then having that amazing conversation with the Filipino woman who I am so hateful towards myself of forgetting her name, but she was a journalist.
Yeah.
Rosa, yes.
Maria Reza, yeah.
Who lived through Duarte.
Yeah, Duterte. And yeah, I watch a lot of her because after Duterte happened, she basically went all over the world and was like, this is going to happen to you if you're not careful.
Yeah. And she went on the show, and John, to his credit, was basically like, so you can say I told you so to us.
Yeah, she's really cool.
She's so cool. She recently came out with a book. We should read that book.
Oh, I didn't know she wrote something. Yeah, I would love to read that.
It came out last year, I think.
Yeah, that would be very of the times. She's brilliant.
But it's essentially how to resist authoritarianism.
Yes, and she talks a lot about like the things to look for, the points at which you have opportunities to resist, and she's been doing a lot of press recently about like this thing where he's attacking your media. This is the time. This is one of the last times you're going to have, because once it's gone, it does not just come back.
No, exactly.
So thank God Kimmel's coming back.
Thank God. Oh God, I don't even fucking like Kimmel.
Yeah, I don't like him, but that's the point, is that I would honestly, it's the same way that I would feel if, say, Gavin Newsom wins and went after Fox News.
Yeah.
Because as much as I hate Fox is dumb bullshit, I don't think that would be good either.
No.
I would not want to see Jesse Waters taken off the air for lying about things. I don't know that Brian Kilmeade should remain on the air after saying that we should just kill homeless people rather than relocating them.
Involuntary lethal injection.
Yeah, like, I think maybe that should have some consequences.
You would think there should be some consequences, but yes, the entire point of this is to prevent this from happening regardless of who is in power.
Well, but and also the reality is, like, as much as I'd like personally to see Brian Kilmeade lose his job for saying we should euthanize the homeless, I don't think that government action should be the forum through which that action is taken. Like, I think we should be able to pressure Fox News, a publicly available corporation, not to endorse murder on air without having to force violations of the First Amendment.
Yeah, and we done something along those lines with Jimmy Kimmel, where I can at least proudly say that I have canceled my Disney Plus subscription.
Exactly.
I'm done with that. And another even more effective idea is to watch all of these things on Disney Plus, on Hulu, on ABC, on ESPN Plus, and every single ad that pops up, instead of skipping those ads or just straight up ignoring those ads, you take note of who is giving those ads.
Mm-hmm.
You write down their contact information.
Just give them a little hello. Be like, hey, did you know that this company is advertising on Disney, the company that canceled Jimmy Kimmel?
And you can say to those companies who are advertising on Disney or Hulu or ESPN Plus or ABC and say, I will boycott all of your products if you continue to support a company that is suppressing First Amendment rights.
Yeah, I miss boycotts. Like they worked well enough that during the civil rights movement they tried to make them illegal, and yet we don't do them anymore.
Yeah. But I think part of the reason for that is not just because of apathy, though that is a big part of it, but also back during the civil rights movement, there were a lot of companies that you could choose from.
Yeah, well, and also the economy in general was more local in the 60s. So if you did a boycott, you could affect, like, say you want to affect the local Walmart in your town.
Yeah.
Boycott them, they're just going to be like, okay, we'll just close the only grocery store in your town.
Yeah.
Good luck, dipshits.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 60s, you could be like, this guy literally, I know where he lives. His kid goes to school with my kid. I'm going to boycott his business, and the only people who shop there are people who live here, and that can actually make a difference. Or like the boycott of the bus system in Montgomery. That works because you're in Montgomery. You can't do a Montgomery bus boycott on Twitter. In the same way.
No, you can't. And where I'm going with this essentially is that a company that should probably be boycotted, but good luck boycotting them effectively, Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coke and Amazon both.
Yeah, they own everything.
Yeah, it would be functionally impossible. You could stop, every person could stop buying shit from Amazon and Coke tomorrow, and there would still be businesses giving them billions of dollars of business.
Yeah, so this is not to say that boycotts don't work. They can. We've seen this with Jimmy Kimmel being told that he can come back. Now we'll see what happens when he comes back. That's dependent on Jimmy Kimmel actually fucking doing something with this newfound power that he has. But like, it does work, but it's not the only thing that we have to do to resist this.
Yes.
But like, I don't know, like I'm just feeling extremely philosophical about how many things that we're just regarding as normal. Like, just yesterday as of time of recording, on the 22nd, there was a guy who fucking died in the parking lot of the library where I work. And I don't know who the hell he is. I don't know what his deal was. I don't know if I would have even liked him. But he died. And I had to deal with that. And then I had to go back to work and act as though it was normal, that nothing was happening. Never mind the fact that the coroner's van was outside, taking his body away. Never mind the fact that the tow truck was coming in to take his car away. If it was even his car. It probably was. It probably wasn't. I don't know. I had to regard death right in front of me as normal. Just like a couple months ago when ICE was roving all over LA and having abductions happen just a couple blocks away from us, regard that as normal. Having a president in power who is saying the most heinous shit, who at Charlie Kirk's memorial said that he has hatred towards his enemies and won't regard them as equals, essentially. Won't regard them as worthy of any kind of empathy or anything. And that's normal, apparently. And the new normal in elections is now gerrymandering.
Yep.
The new normal in elections is rampant corporate donations and super PACs that are funding candidates that are foisted upon us. And by the way, we only have two parties to choose from, and that's it. You don't get a third option.
Yep. Third party voting is only to pressure the two parties that exist now.
Yeah, and some pressure, huh?
Yeah, super duper effective, guys.
Yeah. And having the tariffs come in and raise the price of eggs, of coffee, of steaks, that's normal, apparently.
Oh, yeah. No, it's totally normal for the president to be able to unilaterally impose a regressive tax on the American people. That's super normal
That's
now.
super normal.
Also super normal for the president to unilaterally decide to summarily execute random men on speedboats in international waters.
Yeah, that's apparently normal.
Totally normal.
Or having Alligator Alcatraz, even though it's shut down, have the 400 or so detainees that were there disappear.
Yeah, where the fuck are they?
Don't know. Contact ICE for more information.
Yeah, it's normal for people to begin dying in ICE detention and have no responsibility for anyone at all.
And that's normal.
Yeah, that's where we are now.
This is normal, apparently.
They want us to think that it should be, but it's up to us to make sure that it isn't.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure what the solution is here, because our solution right now is to yap into a void and hope that all of you hit like and subscribe so that you can support us yapping into the void. But we're not even doing this for money. Money would be nice, but we're not doing this for money. We're not doing this for any reason other than to just
try the exasperation.
Be perpetually exasperated in front of a microphone instead of just perpetually exasperated without a microphone.
Yeah, well, it's the community exasperation. It's the airing the exasperation with other minds who share the same feeling.
Yeah.
In order to attempt to understand and ultimately alleviate those problems.
And trying to get that exasperation to poke its head above the surface of ads that has taken over the entire internet.
Yeah, I think there is you're correct that we are in a time of unprecedentedly shitty norms.
Yeah.
And that a lot of stuff that we are trying to that powers that be are trying to make normal are things that we shouldn't consider to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
And in those circumstances, generally the people that look back on those circumstances and don't see it as a harbinger of worse times to come are people that understand that the norms being broken can be beneficial for them too, because now the norms restricting them don't exist either. So, for example, last I checked, everybody who works for the federal government and most people who work for state governments make an oath of office. They put their hand on a book that they care about and they say, I'm not going to be a bitch.
Yeah, there's a little more legalese in there.
Yeah,
but basically
it's like I'm not going to be a bitch, but like legally binding.
Yeah. so help you God is somewhere in there as well.
Why is it that I, as an individual citizen to whom that oath was being made, theoretically, can't sue that person for breaking it?
Because of either sovereign immunity or absolute immunity
or
qualified immunity.
Then do it anyway. Have hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people file suit against these people for breaking the law. That costs money. That costs time. They're going to have to deal with that. Part of what is making it possible for them to do this is they are breaking norms and saying, hey, if you don't like that, stop me. Otherwise, it's a new norm.
Yeah.
That is what we need to do. We need to stop asking for permission. We need to find things that can be done, regardless of whether or not they're allowed in the system. Just fucking try it.
Yeah.
Including filing thousands of lawsuits that you're not legally allowed to file, because they're not legally allowed to abduct our neighbors and put them in random camps in the Everglades, but they're doing that anyway.
They're doing that anyway and telling us what the fuck are you going to do about it.
Yeah, I personally think that we should start following ICE officers around in LA if they're masking. I think that they're breaking the law. It is illegal to wear a mask unnecessarily in California now.
It is. That just recently got signed by Fearless Leader.
Yes.
Now, theoretically...
Thanks, Gavin, I guess.
Thanks, Gavin. And theoretically, the California Highway Patrol is supposed to be enforcing that along with other police departments, but they're not going to fucking do it.
No, but we can.
But we can, and just in general, there was, along those lines... There was a Reddit post that I had seen recently where the entire gist was make it hard for them.
Yes.
Make them make you.
As comply. Tim Snyder says, do not comply in advance.
Yes, do not comply in advance. So, for example, the half-masting of flags
Yes, that's a great example.
in honor of Charlie Kirk. I recently did a drive through the Central Valley.
Mm-hmm.
The ratio of flags lowered versus flags that were not lowered, there were quite a few flags that were lowered. And you know how I found out that I was back in LA County? That ratio swapped.
Of course it did.
And there's another instance, anecdotally, I wasn't here for it. I did not have to go through this process at the time, where the order had gone out for the city to lower their flags. But the city, for whatever reason, had not sent out an email to the various departments to lower said flags. And at this particular branch library, which shall remain nameless for their sake.
I was going to say it because otherwise they'll be able to find you.
Exactly. This particular library did not lower their flag to half-staff. The reason for it wasn't necessarily because they chose not to. They just didn't know. It took a patron calling and asking, "Why isn't your flag at half-staff?" And they could reply, "We didn't get the order to."
Never heard of it.
Now, this library did eventually lower the flag. But this is one of those cases where, hypothetically, I'm not endorsing this. I'm simply pointing out that you could say to a patron, "Yeah, I'll get right on that. Let me just take care of a couple of things first." You don't specify that those couple of things might take the entire day.
Yeah, all the rest of your job responsibilities for the entire day and tomorrow and the day after.
And by the way, if somebody complains, "Hey, why isn't the flag at half-staff? I asked you to get to that," you can reply,
"You're not my dad."
Sir and or madam, we are in an institution where our city is in a hiring freeze right now. And even prior to that, our particular department, the library system, has been severely underfunded for a significant portion of time, which means that the amount of employees actually working for the library has been slowly decaying and eroding over time. Does that sound familiar to anybody? And in the meantime, those who are left, who are not getting significant wage increases, by the way, are having to do more and more and more work for just the same, or let's be honest, with inflation, less and less pay. There's a lot of shit to do in a library. Contrary to popular belief, you can't just sit around in a library and do nothing all day. Trust me, if that were the case, I'd be so much happier at my job. But that's not how that shit works. And I have stuff to do. And this is pressing stuff. This is stuff that requires me to keep the library running, to answer your questions so that you don't have to go to a bot online that will give you false information about something. I'm here to also help you not only find that book you need, but also to help troubleshoot your electronic device. I'm here to deal with that one patron who's being kind of a dick to another patron to ensure that everybody has a relatively decent experience at the library. And this is something that I and my colleagues have to deal with day after day after day after day with no appreciation. To quote the great Vice President J.D. Vance,
"Oh no.
Have you even said thank you?" I just killed my co-host. He dead. He dead over there.
The big face Vance lives in my head as a meme. And I just heard him say thank you in that voice.
Have you even said thank you?
Yeah, I mean, it's malicious compliance is important. Malicious disobedience is important. But ultimately, we have to be willing to stop being institutionalist, because that's what's killing us right now. That's what's killing the Democratic Party right now.
This is institutionalized insanity that we're
Yes.
being dragged into.
And we're inclined, like, it is a liberal inclination to defend the institution because of the era ushered in by the Warren Court that finally created institutions that, at least under certain circumstances, performed for the people. But that is not what has happened.
No.
They have been terribly eroded and corrupted over the last 30 years. And if we continue to defend them, we are defending things that are hurting our voters.
Yes, we are defending things that are hurting ourselves. We are defending things that are hurting our loved ones. We are defending things that are leaving us poor, hungry, tired, and in fear. I am seeing what's happening in Chicago right now, knowing what I've just lived through in Los Angeles, and it's probably going to come back at some point when they realize, oh, hey, Los Angeles is probably on fire again. We should probably go back there.
Yep, when they need some content.
And they'll probably do this in Boston as well. I live in a state of fear. I live in a state where my loved ones could be picked up at any moment for no particular reason by someone who claims to be ICE or a federal agent of some kind, but for all I know,
Just some white supremacist gang member.
could be a white supremacist gang member rapist.
Yep.
Who's just gonna go and take someone, do their business, leave them in a ditch somewhere, and never be identified. That's the norm that they're trying to impose upon us right now. Fuck that!
Yeah, and at this point, it's like there's a lot of... They will make any form of effective resistance to things illegal and uncool.
Yeah,
You need to be doing illegal, uncool stuff right now.
you do.
Not to quote some graffiti I found on the Oakland subway one day, but be gay, do crime. Murder returned.
Murder returned. Well played. Great retaliation. But yes, be gay, do crimes. If it's illegal to not do fellation on the late Charlie Kirk, fuck it.
Yeah, do crimes. Don't fillet him.
Don't fillet him. That's just gross to begin with.
Yeah, there is... Not giving information that the Nazis wanted was illegal. That doesn't mean it was that it was immoral not to tell a Nazi that there are Jews in your apartment building. That at some point in a fascist takeover, all the things you can do to stop it will be things that if you have been led to see morality and legality as correlated, will feel immoral.
Yes. And it goes back... Going back to that Reddit post, the mentality is they're gonna do it anyway.
Yes, so we have to do it anyway too.
Yeah. If they're gonna regard us as rebels, if they're gonna regard us as terrorists, and if they're gonna regard us as un-American just because we don't comply to fascism,
Then be an American in the Tea Party sense. Not in the modern Tea Party sense, but in the old Boston, take your owner's shit and throw it in the harbor kind of way.
or look, let's be clear here. Antifa doesn't exist. That's not an organization. That's not a thing. That was a thing back in fascist Europe. It's not a thing here. But you know who were the last really good examples of Antifa in America? Go look at Arlington Cemetery.
Very true.
Go look at the GIs
Very
who went
true.
overseas and shot Nazis in the fucking head.
Yep.
Those are Antifa, we are not pro-fa.
Yeah, it's really telling when you're like, the biggest state enemy is anti-fascists. Okay, but what does that make you? Like, you just got up and said, my biggest enemy is people who want to kill fascists. You're a fascist then. Okay, so we're not pretending anymore.
This is something where we can, traveling in groups so that we can feel safer. If someone comes up to us and says, "Are you Antifa?" demand to know, what is Antifa?
Yeah, I mean, my personal answer would be like, yeah, I'm anti-fascist. Is that a problem?
Why is anti-fascism illegal? Why is anti-fascism immoral? Why is anti-fascism un-American?
Pretty suspicious.
We're not even being Marxist in this case. We're not being socialist. We're not being communist. We're not even being Democrats.
Nope, just refusing to put the fascist dick all the way down our throats. And even that apparently is now not okay.
No. The only thing that is okay in this new norm that they are trying to impose upon us is to submit.
Yep.
To be a slave. In every sense of the term.
Yep.
Fuck that.
And to bring it back to the subject of the book.
Ah, yes, that's right. We went on a little bit of a tangent here.
Well, we didn't. In the sense that what we were just talking about is related to this topic in the sense that these three last books that we read were about the ultimate arbiters of what is considered moral in our country today. And it is important for us to realize that because of the corruption of the appointment process committed by the conservatives in the last 30 years, they are no longer an effective arbiter of what is legal and moral.
No, they're not.
They are making these decisions based on a legal and moral code disparate from an American one. And we're going to have to start being comfortable with the idea that things that are moral and necessary to preserve our government and system of democracy, even when affirmed by the people on the Supreme Court, may not be things that you should consider off limits in your political resistance against this regime.
And
now, granted, don't
murder. We are not advocating for straight up illegality.
Well, but the trick is, what I'm advocating for is straight up illegality of, like, things that shouldn't be illegal. Like, I don't know, being Antifa.
Yeah.
That's, like, yeah, okay, that's illegal. So fucking what? That just because you made a law doesn't mean that I have to follow it. The Constitution's first thing says that I get to be an anti-fascist. It's the first thing I get.
It's the first thing that I get, and this is what I think is ultimately making us, apparently, radicals for saying this. If the First Amendment doesn't mean that we can say that Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit...
Yeah, like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. That's not the fucking point.
The point is we can say it... and it's fine.
Yeah, in the same way that, like, and we can say it, not that it's fine, but that the government isn't going to punish us for that. In the same way that when, I don't remember if it was who it was in the administration, but when they made all those, hammer underwear jokes about Paul Pelosi.
That would be Senator, let's see, wait, no, for Paul Pelosi, that
might have
was...
been Tommy Tuberville.
That was... Donald Trump Jr.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was Don Jr.
Whereas for the Minnesota state representatives that were straight up murdered, the guy who said "Nightmare on Wall Street."
Oh, yeah, that was
Senator
Randy Fine, wasn't it?
Senator Mike Lee of Utah.
God damn! Oh no!
He said that shit on X.
Not to feel bad, not to, but damn, that's some karma right there.
And again, it's like, all right,
douchey thing to say in both cases.
Incredibly douchey thing to say, but we weren't sitting here saying that Senator Mike Lee should be put in jail for it.
Yeah, also, Charlie Kirk said that Joe Biden should be executed. He said that Ketanji Brown Jackson was a DEI hire. If the things he said did not mean he deserved what happened to him, then none of the things we say deserve that.
Right. So clarify for us, if you will, before you put us in the unmarked van, what exactly are the rules?
Yes.
Spell out for us in exhaustive detail what the new First Amendment is. Spell out for us in exhaustive detail what the new amendment is for the quartering of troops in our area. Spell out for us what the new amendment for the right to due process is.
Yes.
Spell out
what is due process for people who are not citizens? Is it different? Why? How?
Spell out for us, if you please, I believe it's the 14th Amendment as to what even is a fucking citizen anymore. Spell out for us, if you please, with the incoming election, not the midterms, but the presidential election in the back of our minds, what does the amendment regarding presidential terms actually mean?
Exactly. And I think what will be notable is that they won't.
They
and
won't.
That's part of the fascist trick, is that once you write the rule set down, you need to respect what you wrote down. You can't be mercurial. You can't be whimsical. You can't be a strong man when you have a legal code that is obeyed. So they're not going to write anything down. They're not going to admit anything. They're just going to say, our prerogatives are what must be respected. Because unfortunately, that's how we've structured our government, is that it's not actually about what's written down, but what the people who read what's written down say about it. So that's what they're going to do. And we need to be comfortable with being like, that is not valid. You are not, I get that you're a Supreme Court justice, but you don't get to make these decisions. It is written down clearly that I get to say whatever the fuck I want. And if you're going to arrest me for that, okay.
Okay.
But I'm not going to not say it. That's not how this works.
This is not how this works. This is not normal.
Because as much as they want to believe it, I guarantee you, chyrons of leftists being arrested for speech is not going to be as popular on Fox News as they think.
I mean, for fuck's sake,
this is still America, dude.
We had fucking Tucker Carlson recently say that what happened to Jimmy Kimmel was not okay.
That, when Tucker is on the same side as Jimmy Kimmel, we know shit is fucked up.
And Ted Cruz as well, by the way. Rand Paul, by the way.
Granted, Rand has been a little bit against Trump since his winning, because he's like, I'm a libertarian, dude, and you are fucking things up for me right now.
Granted, but nonetheless, and their reasoning as well was recently stated to be that, if we do this, if the Democrats come back to power, they're going to do the exact same thing to us.
Yeah, they're like, okay, so you're going to go after ABC and NBC for, quote, distorting the news. Have you seen anything on the Fox network?
Literally
what are you
anything.
doing?
Literally anything. To not even go into One America News Network or Newsmax.
Yeah.
Or literally any other fucking right-wing rag.
Lindell TV.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that does also exist.
Yep.
All of these things, these networks that straight up spew lies and have tried to paint themselves as entertainment. That was a thing that Fox News did in court, that they are entertainment.
Well, that's partly because of the change in federal communications regulations that even allowed Fox News to exist in the first place. Because it used to be illegal to present yourself as a news program and then lie about shit.
Right. But what the fuck was Stephen Colbert?
He's a comedian.
Yeah, entertainment.
Yeah, that's true. And
what the fuck was Jimmy Kimmel?
Entertainment.
That occasionally did the news.
Yeah.
What the fuck is Jon Stewart
Yeah.
or
that's
John
very true.
Oliver?
With the difference that if you ask them if they're comedy or news, they'll say comedy.
They will say
Whereas Fox will be like, no, big news.
Big-
Huge news.
big news right up until they're dragged in court, and they'll say,
That's
no,
true. Yeah, no,
entertainment.
entertainment. No rules. No laws. No.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. This is normal. What we do is different from what they do.
Yep.
Simply because we're doing it and they're doing something else. And that is the fascist playbook. That they're not beholden to laws. We are beholden to laws, not
Yes.
them.
We are protected but not bound. You are bound but not protected.
Yes. And until we, as a society, understand that and actually stand up to it, this is only going to get worse.
Yep.
And
And that at this point, marginal reform-based institutional solutions.
it's not enough.
Yep. We are past that. I
Honest-
don't know where that puts us,
Honestly,
but
honestly, I'm going to be as honest as I can here. We need to do something that will be seen as like hysterical for it right now.
Mhm.
But it'll be useful for us later on. Consider ourselves as basically in Putinist Russia right now.
yeah, like 2010, 2012 Putinist Russia.
Or not even. Like, yes, you could objectively say closer to 2010, 2012 Putinist Russia, but act as though it is Putinist Russia right now.
Yeah.
Go about your daily business as though you are being watched.
You definitely are.
Go about your business as though you can be picked up in a moment.
Because you can. That's true. You're right. You're 100% right. Our
We,
civil rights are a little bit differently organized, but we
But
are in
that-
a very similar position.
yeah, that doesn't even matter anymore. We cannot go about our daily business as though it's not too late.
Yep.
Even if we are wrong, and I hope against all hope that we are wrong about this, I would love to have egg on my face right now and be called a hysterical Marxist for saying this. Act as though it's already too late.
Because the reality is, for some of our neighbors, it is.
is. They're
It
gone.
already has been. They're already gone. They're in
Fuck.
who knows the fuck where.
They could be in El Salvador.
They could be in, what is it, South Sudan?
They-
Who knows?
They could be just in a ditch or in a swamp somewhere in fucking Florida for all we fucking know.
Yep, it is too late for some of our neighbors, which means it is already too late.
They were our last line of defense. The enemy is beyond the gates. They're in the house right now.
Yep, they're in the walls, burning things down and drinking the wine. The question is, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that whatever that thing is, if it's really going to work, that ain't legal.
No.
And if
But-
it is now, it's not going to stay that way.
But just go about your business in that regard, that it's already too late. But that doesn't mean, and I need to be very clear about this, just because it's too late doesn't mean it's over.
Yep.
Just because it's too late to change the trajectory of things doesn't mean we give up. And that comes from a YouTube video that was released in, I think it was late 2020, early 2021, from Carlos Maza. Where the fuck is your newest video, Carlos? How to be hopeless. going off of Albert Camus' book, The Plague, which was not just poignant for COVID-19, but it was written as an allegory for the rise of fascism and Nazism in France, and how hopeless it is at times to resist fascism and Nazism, where individual efforts aren't always going to succeed, and how we in our society, be it your local community or your state, your nation, you could even go into just the entire world, we're in a prison and we're all going to die in there. But you know what? We can do the most human thing possible and be compassionate to one another, to comfort one another, to help one another in this dark time where we have nothing left but each other, and resist anyway, even if it doesn't work. We resist anyway because that is the most human thing we can do in human times. So read that book, The Plague. It's depressing, but it's going to help. And just go about life as though it's too late, but it's not over. And that fascism is here, but it will not win. Even to our dying breath, we won't let it win.
And now for the section we'd like to call our denouement. So first question, who wrote this book?
From the book itself, Erwin Chemerinsky is the founding dean and distinguished professor of law, and Raymond Pike Professor of First Amendment Law at the University of California, Irvine School of Law, with a joint appointment in political science. He is the author of 7 other books about constitutional law, and he has argued several cases at the Supreme Court. Chemerinsky holds a law degree from Harvard Law School and a bachelor's degree from Northwestern University. He has written for the New York Times, the LA Times, and the Boston Globe, among many other places. And in January 2014, National Jurist magazine named him the most influential person in legal education in the United States. And since then, he has written We the People, a progressive reading of the Constitution for the 21st century, Worse Than Nothing, the dangerous fallacy of originalism, and the one we referenced earlier, No Democracy Lasts Forever, how the Constitution threatens the United States. And I've been told that No Democracy Lasts Forever is quite spicy.
It is quite spicy.
And essentially, this guy knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Second question, why was this book written?
This is a book that is meant to show reality, to strip away myths and fantasies, legends and stories that we tell ourselves about the institutions that have governed us for hundreds of years. It's a book that's meant to tell the truth about what the Supreme Court is, and show that while it has had plenty of moments that pushed us in the right direction and, indeed, served the needs of the people, so much more often, it has served the interests of the elite and the powerful, and has suppressed the will, the needs, and the power of the people. This book exposes the institution for what it is, flawed at best, demonstrably hostile, more often than not at worst.
And our last question, should you read this book?
Yes.
Yes.
We didn't get into too much detail with quotations from this text because, frankly, it's kind of a tome. And legal stuff is challenging to talk about without massive amounts of context. But Chemerinsky is probably one of the only people out there who can actually pull it off. What we talked about barely begins to scratch the surface of the problem. This is a book that, yes, it wasn't written recently. It's an old book. It's 11 years old. But this is a book that you need to read so that you can truly understand what we the people are up against, how much work we had to do, and why it's so important to extract ourselves from the binary political spectrum we've been fed as to what's real for most of our lives. Read his other work as well, by the way. He's fair. He knows how to write compellingly. And I think he's one of the most insightful of our authors to this point. Too long didn't read. Read this book.
Yeah, I think if you are a person who argues with people a lot about this topic, this book is worth reading.
It's basically like your go-to reference book.
Yes, it has a lot of very good anecdotal references to the kind of stuff that the Supreme Court is up to. If you just want to know like where to go from here, what the current circumstances are, his more recent book is actually probably more on point.
Yeah.
This is more for the person who's like constantly having discussions about how we just need to go back to the Warren Court, and you can be like, actually, no.
Or you can go throughout history and show how the Supreme Court has been hostile to unions, has been hostile to African Americans, to women,
Yes.
to workers, to everyone who has been aggrieved by the government in some way, shape, or form. This is a reference book more than anything, and does what Neil Gorsuch in his fucking book, Overruled, couldn't even begin to do.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe Neil should read this.
Yeah, he takes anecdotal evidence and presents it in a way that makes sense and isn't boring. And he does it without the stupid fucking pop culture references that Leah Lippman, I'm sorry, she just litters throughout the book. This is truly the best of both worlds book. You need this book if you're talking with anybody about the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Perpetually Exasperated. If today's conversation got you thinking a little bit deeper and a little more exasperated about everything, we want to hear from you. Give us a like, leave a review, share the show. Please send your feedback, thoughts, or questions you'd like us to answer in your comments.
Next time, we'll be reading and talking about For Love of Country, Leave the Democrat Party Behind by Tulsi Gabbard, a book where Gabbard, as per Simon & Schuster, calls on those who love America to protect our rights from those who are seeking to undermine them at every turn, and encourages a departure from the Democratic Party.
Until then, be critical, be skeptical, and remember, it's okay to be exasperated and to think outside the binary political spectrum presented to us. Stay safe, friends.